Hello, Michael. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Michael, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, my man, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, Marco, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. I say some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Marco, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Marco, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. Beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Michael. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Michael that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insights, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, my man, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Michael is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the incredible Michael. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Michael, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Michael on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, my man, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, Michael, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Michael got here. Then, afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Well, thank you. It's interesting how I got here. It really started when I was a teenager. And so my father was a coach for executives in Fortune 100 companies, mostly in New York City. And I grew up just outside of New York City. When I was 15, he invited me to sit in on one on one coaching sessions with these executives that had been fired. And what surprised me is most of them had been fired based on a lack of communication skills. And so I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with the term the Peter principle, but it's this concept that we get promoted to our highest level of incompetence, not competence, incompetence. And let me explain how that happens. Companies, when they're looking to promote someone, they look at the person that's technically best at what they do. And because that person stands out technically great, they promote them to a management role. However, when you're a manager, the skills to be successful are very different from an individual contributor role. So what happens is we keep getting promoted further and further away from the technical expertise that got us noticed to a point where our job is mostly dependent on developing relationships with others and being able to get results through others. And so what happens is if the companies don't provide people with the training they need to be successful, they fail eventually because their communication skills or lack thereof catch up with them. So I'm 15 years old watching my dad coach these very high level executives, and he's coaching them in fundamental communication skills and coaching them to eliminate the ineffective habits that they have and replace them with more effective trust building habits and behaviors. And for me, that was an eye opener. It kind of awoke in me a purpose when I realized that, these people that are very powerful people they're also very vulnerable because they were not given the training they needed to be successful. So that got me excited. I did my undergraduate and my master's degree in communication skills and organizational communication. And I've spent most of the last 20 years coaching people in many of the same things that I watched my father coach when I was 15 years old. But more often than not, it's about helping people raise their awareness of how they communicate with others, how they come across to others. What are some of the limiting beliefs they have about themselves that cause them to hold back their career success, and helping them find new ways to look at themselves, overcome any ineffective habits or really limiting beliefs they have about themselves. And once you help them remove those barriers or unlearn the ineffective things, they suddenly just take off with their careers because they're focusing on being more effective and they have a better mindset. So that's and I do that as my business. I've written a book on it recently, and so it's just my passion is helping people discover their own strengths and learn how to leverage them to be more effective.
Amazing, my man. You see, this stuff you're doing has made you a very important asset to this planet. And I wish I knew you when I was at high school. Because I used to struggle with this stuff, man. I tell you, there was a day when the teacher he asked us a particular question, and, you know, there was this very confident um, classmate of mine. He stood up. He's got so much confidence, all right, but he was just saying, John, that wasn't the answer. Then I knew the answer. Michael, I knew the answer, but I just couldn't stand up because I don't know how to communicate it. I was so, you mentioned limiting beliefs now. I was in this cage. I don't know, but I knew within myself that I knew the answer. Then someone managed to stand up and said, teacher, yeah, and yeah, and yeah, and yeah. He said the answer. Then they all clapped for him. They said, yeah, he got it. Then I told the one seated beside me, I said, well, I actually knew the answer, but. Then he said, why didn't you stand up? And I said, I don't know, but I just know I knew the answer. So that's why I mentioned
Yeah,
that. I wish I knew you back then. So over time now, I started learning these communication skills, and boom, just like you mentioned that once they step out of that barrier, they take off. And that's relatable. I tell you, it's so true, man. It's so true.
yeah. And what's really interesting is as we get into a world that's being more and more controlled or influenced by artificial intelligence, communication skills become even more important because, as I mentioned earlier, the executives that I had watched when I was 15, they were getting into trouble because they moved away from their technical skills. But with AI is replacing technical skills much faster than communication skills. So the leaders in the future who are really going to be successful are the ones that really develop their ability to communicate well, influence others, get results through others, because some of their technical work will probably eventually be replaced by AI if it's not already. So communication skills will be even more important moving forward for people as we have more and more things being replaced, more of our technical skills being replaced by artificial intelligence.
That's so true, my man. So you mentioned artificial intelligence. Let's pick the first question from here. All right. Are you ready for me?
Sure.
All right. So he says, why is communication the make or break skill in today's AI-driven world?
Yeah. And so the main answer to that is uh, you are going to become more reliant on your communication skills as AI replaces the technical work. And a example would be, that same person that was promoted based on their technical skill. Well, if their technical skills starts getting replaced by AI, then what is the means to promote them? What makes them stand out as different? And their ability to develop relationships, or develop their ability to have good interpersonal conversations, to present their ideas clearly. Those are the things that are really going to make people stand out more. And so for me, that's why it's make or break, because as fast as AI is working, it cannot duplicate human emotion yet.
True,
It cannot
true.
duplicate. You can certainly use AI to rewrite a letter, but it's not going to help you in those moments that matter. And there are moments that matter that are career defining. Those times where it's an argument, it's a disagreement, it's a key moment where you
Hmm,
need to make sure everyone understands what you're trying to cover. The things that are going to make you stand out in those moments that matter is going to be your ability to communicate.
your ability to communicate. Wow, I got that. This is beautiful. So let us look at how leaders can improve. How can leaders improve their communication to stay relevant in the AI world?
It, it's interesting for me. It all starts with self-awareness, right? And a big part of that is being able to set aside your ego and be open to the world in terms of getting feedback from others, learning what your potential strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Because when you have a high awareness of your strengths and high awareness of weaknesses, you can leverage those strengths and you can minimize the weaknesses. And when you look at the research around it, people who have low self awareness are 6 times more likely to have major career setbacks or failures than people who are high self aware. And the reason is they put themselves in situations that they don't realize they're weak in, or that are away from what their strengths are. And so self-awareness is key number one. In the book, I have self-assessments throughout that allow you to self-assess yourself in areas of emotional intelligence, in what I call culturally learned communication behaviors. And a lot of times that is, when I say culturally learned, it could be our family environment, it could be our community, it could be the country we're from, it could be our religious beliefs. All those things influence the what strengths we develop and what potential limitations we have. And so if you become really aware of those things and how they're impacting your ability to have trusting relationships or be effective in your roles, and in which, by the way, everything that I teach to business leaders is relevant at home as well. It's even maybe more relevant with communication with children and spouses and family members and friends. So, but if I can get people to increase their self-awareness, then they have the basis for understanding where they might want to make shifts to improve their ability to have strong relationships with others, and where they might have limiting behaviors that they'd like to replace with more effective trust building behaviors. I think you froze on me again. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, I can hear
I
you
missed
now.
what
Beautiful. And
if
I
you said something. I missed it if you said something because you were
no,
frozen for a
not yet.
second.
Not yet, not yet. Okay, so I was about to say, what inspired you to write that amazing book, Leadership Accelerators, and what makes it different from other leadership books?
Sure. Well, the inspiration was I want to have the largest impact that I can on helping people improve their relationships and their results. And I believe through the 20 plus years of my consulting career that the communication skills are the single greatest tool that you can use that can accelerate your career or potentially hold you back in your career. So my excitement around the book was really about taking those 20 plus years of experience and finding a way to reach a broader audience to create a more positive influence on how they communicate with others. I mean, when you look at the direction our world is heading, there's so much negativity out there and so many negative interactions you can see on display, in the world. And what I'd like to do is be able to influence, people's ability to really create more positive interactions, to create more positive relationships, and to really become more effective in their own communication so that the people around them can learn from that as well. So that's the main thing that kind of motivated me to do it. What makes the book different from others is that when I wrote this book, I wanted it to be a self-guided tool so that people can literally increase their self-awareness, learn techniques to apply them, and then actually apply them without ever attending a class or my coaching or whatever. It's just, you can literally pick up the book, and on every skill that I cover, there are self-assessments that people can fill out. They can have other people fill them out for them as well, so they can see if other people's perceptions match their own perceptions. Self-assessments, for example, on ineffective communication habits, or how you react in emotional situations, things like that, emotional intelligence and communication skills, and also even how your personality impacts your ability to develop strong relationships. So people can do the actual assessments. Then I give them activities and step-by-step actions they can take to apply the results of their assessments. So literally, by reading one chapter, you can the next day turn around and start to improve in the area that chapter covered. So I think what makes it different is the focus on making sure that people have everything in the book to be able to increase self-awareness, increase skill, and actually become better on the job. That's really what my focus was.
Awesome. And that's not just a book, that's a powerful guide, more like your companion guiding you. I got that. So what is the quickest way for someone to become a stronger communicator today?
Step one is definitely getting feedback from others, and increasing, when I teach self-awareness, I always talk about the difference between self-perception and self-awareness. Self-perception is what I believe about myself, and self-awareness is when others confirm that what you believe about yourself is accurate to what they're experiencing, right? And so for me, a lot of people think they're good at communicating, or they think they're a good listener, or they think they're good in relationship situations or presenting. And it's not necessarily true until you get confirmation from others that they see it the same way. Because we all grow up with our own blinders, so to speak. We have this. We see the world based on our own experiences, and that's the beauty of being in a diverse workforce or being in a diverse community, is you can learn from the experiences of others and start to broaden, what we see, and start to recognize there's different ways of seeing the world. There's different ways of communicating. And so if you can get really good at finding a way to make sure you are truly self-aware, and that's really through getting feedback from others and asking for feedback, and allowing your ego to step down, and knowing that any feedback is good feedback as long as you do something with it to help yourself improve or help improve a relationship. And so, a lot of times, some of the toughest feedback I've received in my life was the most valuable, because I was able to hear it and I was able to realize how I could apply it to improve relationships. Like I mentioned earlier, it's relationships at home, it's relationships at work. No matter what the context, the communication fundamentals are the same.
Getting feedbacks. Okay, I got that. So one more to go, all right? So how can leaders develop stronger self-awareness?
You can, I don't want to pump my own book, but yeah, doing self-assessments is definitely one way. But for me, in the book itself, it does have self-assessments. But I think most important thing is getting feedback from the people they trust the most, the people that are around the most, they communicate with the most. A lot of times that's family members. A lot of times it's peers that they work with, or someone in their community or their church. Anyone that they spend a lot of time with is probably the best person to give them feedback on how to, where their strengths are and where their limitations are. When you have trusting relationships around you and people that are willingness to give you feedback and that you can react well to, no matter what that feedback is, then that's how you can really get the self-awareness process going. And the people that I see are most self-aware, they're hungry for that feedback, right? They look for it. They go out and they find every opportunity to say, hey, what did I do well in this situation? Is there anything I could do differently that would have allowed it to be more effective? Or even being willing to just be vulnerable and say, hey, I didn't handle that situation very well. I'd like to talk to you about it and see if we can come up to a better outcome. But those are the kind of things. But it starts with having people around you trust to give you honest feedback, not just people who will tell you what you want to hear, but that'll tell you what you don't want to hear as well.
I got that, and that's a beautiful one. Very smart. Okay, so to bring this to an end, Michael, what would you like to leave the audience with? Like a final thought, and to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or make a purchase of your wonderful book. How can that be possible?
Well, I guess the final thought that I would say is if you want to improve your relationship with anybody, just let go of wishing they were different from who they are. And that's the key. Is a lot of times we get hung up on the behavior patterns or the things that other people do that are important to us in our lives, but it may just be they have a different personality need and they tend to be more blunt and to the point, and you want to be spoken to differently. But if you let go of wishing they were more like you and accepting who they are for who they are, right, then you can start to let go of anything that's holding you back in that relationship. For example, I had one boss who was very blunt and I would even say rude in the way he gave feedback. And in the beginning of that relationship, I hated working with him. But once I got beyond my own ego and I started listening to the message behind the way the message was being said, I was able to get more valuable feedback from him and improve the most in my career simply because I stopped wishing he would be different. And instead of hearing the way he was saying things, I was listening for the message behind it. So if people can really get good at just accepting the people in their lives as, we're all flawed in our own ways and we're all uniquely beautiful in our own ways. And if we can accept those differences instead of trying to change people, that's probably the most important thing they can do. And so in terms of your other question, how can people reach me? I mean, I frequently post things on how to be more effective communicator or how to be more effective leader on LinkedIn. So if people wanted to go that route, or you could go to my website, which is my last name, DELISSER.com. And if they go there, they can see a link for my book. They can see the type of training I do, and I do have a resources page that has things as well. But either way, I'm if someone is interested in following me, I do everything I can to put out positive messaging about how to improve relationships and results. And I'd be more than welcome to have anyone join in and be part of that.
Beautiful, my man. And that's a great one you're doing, I tell you. What you're doing is very, very important in the world. Very, very. So that's going to be the end of the show, my man. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with your audience. I love making a difference.
Beautiful, my